ways. And so you work with some pretty unique properties,
Yeah.
not just run of the mill, very standard, could plop anywhere properties. So I'm curious, how do you develop that as your niche?
You know, kind of fell into it. Look, we want to say we're the smartest people that ever lived and knew that, post COVID boutique office would be, sort of the asset class du jour in office if it were, or, sort of ultra high end class A office would be what people want. But ultimately we started sort of with the concept because we saw a space where there were really beautiful architecturally significant buildings in markets that had really high barrier to entry. And when I say markets, I mean specifically sort of Manhattan submarkets. I don't know how much of your listener base is in New York, but if you know markets like Soho or the West Village, or there's real reasons for the barrier to entry. Part of them is the Department of Buildings and something called Landmarks Preservation Commission. So you basically aren't allowed to touch anything on the facade, or if you do, you have to restore it to what it was, sort of 150 years ago. Anyway, so it created a high barrier to entry to come in and renovate any of these assets. And historically, if one of these assets was vacant, it would go residential, and that was sort of the highest and best use. As, the office market grew and developed, there was this real need for sort of institutional quality, asset building in those markets because there was, a desire of tenants to want to be there. So we saw the opportunity and started doing that back in, sort of 18, 19. And then through the COVID years, as it happened, all of a sudden that became what everybody wanted. So everybody talks about it to death, sort of the barbell effect. Everybody was looking for something really, really nice, ultra class A, something special, or something incredibly cheap and sort of nothing in between. So we luckily fit into that category and a niche, right? So we were class A, but we didn't have to compete with sort of the one Vanderbilts of the world. And we didn't have to fight over Amazon or Meta being our tenant for, 500,000 or 300,000 square feet. Right. So our whole business plan was you take these really gorgeous, architecturally significant buildings, you renovate them, sort of like we always say, we renovate them as if it was a ground up construction. We only keep the, four perimeter walls and, the vertical sort of columns and wood joists, and everything else is brand new. And that helped attract the tenancy.